And that brings us to our next team, who could also kind of similar to the Raptors, right? Just on the outside as of right now of the playoff race, but they could definitely pose some problems for whoever they match up to. And we're talking about the Golden State Warriors. Now, when we talk about the Golden State Warriors, the first thing we need to talk about is the fact that they have Steph Curry. That's pretty much the end-all, be-all for them and their hopes of any playoff success. The fact that they have Steph Curry means you have a walking 40-point bomb who has arguably the biggest offensive impact in NBA history in terms of his spacing the floor, his shooting, the fact that he doesn't even need to touch the ball for a team to be just completely scared of him, right? Steph Curry is the end-all, be-all. He's been carrying this Golden State team. Golden State is pretty much, we've seen those stats, right? Golden State is a solid NBA team, like was it 12th, like middle of the pack around, middle of the pack or towards the top 10 team in the league. And then when Steph Curry sits, they turn into a G League team, right? We've seen those stats. So Steph Curry is pretty much the end all be all. Aside from Steph Curry, though, they've actually managed to have a top 10 defense this season, which is pretty weird if you think about it, because of the fact that they have a G League lineup half the time, right? They're like half the time you can't even name some of their players, right? But the fact is they've had a top 10 defensive team. And that points to, credit to that goes to Steve Kerr and his ability to coach. Now, again, a lot of people are always talking smack about Steve Kerr and calling him fake and all this stuff. I've always been a firm believer in Steve Kerr because of the fact that I watched the Mark Jackson days. A lot of these guys that are talking smack about Steve Kerr did not watch the Mark Jackson days and do not remember, or if they did, they do not remember all the stuff that actually happened behind the scenes, right? A lot of that stuff does not get talked about anymore. I was there. I remember all the stuff that used to happen, right? And the impact that Steve Kerr had when he came. Steve Kerr's led them to a top 10 defensive team. And that points to, that, again, credit to guys like Draymond Green, who has been exactly what the Golden State Warriors need when he's in the lineup. Credit goes to Andrew Wiggins, two-way Wiggs, right? His nickname now is two-way Wiggs. He's been great for them. He's turned into a prototypical 3-and-D guy that you want in the league.
He had that talent.
Bro? Yeah. You just need to get out of Minnesota, pretty much. So yeah, like Golden State has a good defensive team, which again, similar to what I was talking about Miami, that is what matters in the playoffs. Then on top of Steve Kerr, being there, you also have a guy like Draymond Green, and his veteran presence, his leadership. Him and Steph Curry being there, their presence matters, their leadership matters. Klay Thompson being on the bench to help them out matters. All those things matter in the playoffs. And then finally, they do have some solid role players who could ideally perform on any night. Me being a Raptors fan, I've seen it. I forget what game it was, but when the Raptors faced Golden State in one of their games, I think it was like Andrew Wiggins or one off or something. Damian Lee had a couple threes. They have a couple guys who can get hot in a hurry, right? Andrew Wiggins, Kelly Oubre, Damian Lee, Eric Pascal, even though he's kind of sucked this season. But, they have a couple guys who can get it going, especially in the system that they're in, right? You have a chance to at least win a couple games in the first round if you're able to make it. And obviously, again, they have to get it in there with a play-in tournament. But, you give them 1 or 2 games leeway to get into the playoffs. And Steph Curry, I think, can give you like 45 points and you could have a win, right? And you could make the playoffs as a result. And then in the playoffs, anything can happen, right? With Steph Curry being there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Golden State. But if they're able to make the postseason, that's not a team that you want to underestimate for sure.
Yeah, I mean, again, I feel like the Warriors are in a very similar position to where the Raptors are heading towards, especially when you're talking about how the Warriors were last year, except the Raptors aren't as dramatic as the Warriors were, like because the Warriors lost Steph Curry very early. But again, like they have a solid roster, they have a good coach. They just need some more development. Obviously, they're trying to get their way back to the playoffs. But I think for the Warriors, we wouldn't be talking about them just as a fringe playoff team. I think if Klay Thompson was healthy. I think if Klay Thompson was healthy, I think this would have been a playoff team. but they still have Steph Curry, who is, again, you've said it, how great he is as an offensive threat. It's undeniable that he makes a very big impact on this team, especially considering the lack of talent there is actually on this team, and how they've been a G League roster. I mean, they got beat by the Raptors by like 50, like what was it, 56? What was it? I don't know. So some big number like that. But yeah, so without that was without Steph Curry and Draymond Green. So obviously that was the G League team. But again, there's no denying the Warriors team has talent. You know, obviously Draymond, he's not an offensive threat really anymore, but he can still provide you with that being that defensive anchor. You know, being that presence for you, being that all round threat for you. So Draymond's always going to be there, and the leadership. Then on top of that, again, you mentioned the role players. You mentioned Andrew Wiggins, who again has really reshaped his game. We've always on the show we've talked about the potential that Andrew Wiggins has always had. We always knew he had. It was just about him being in a system that can maximize that potential. And I think Steve Kerr's doing a great job maximizing his potential. Again, Kelly Oubre can be a very serviceable player if he's not trying to run out like Naruto and being the idiot like that he tries to be. He's actually a pretty serviceable player. And then on top of that, they have some decent players. I mean, Damian Lee, Eric Pascal, they have some decent players. So again, it all really comes back to Steph Curry. If he's playing well, the team really feeds off his energy. This Warriors team could potentially, you know, steal a couple of games in the first round if they could. Man, there will be a tough out for sure, just based on the impact they make on the floor with Steph Curry. But yeah, Golden State is definitely another dark horse playoff team.